Today's video is so random, you guys. I'm kind of just clearing out some images that are in my phone that maybe didn't make the cut of a previous video. There's some other topics I've been thinking about. I've been noticing so much spraying going on and weird clouds in the sky. That's a good one to talk about because it's like you either delude yourself, you're plugging yourself into the matrix. Oh, the skies always looked like this, or you remember the way things used to be. And I love that topic because a lot of the end times biblical prophecy is like that. Like time. Do you actually remember the way that it used to be, and are you willing to accept reality? Same thing with the sky. Do you remember what clouds and what the sky used to look like? And are you able to accept reality, or do you just plug yourself into the matrix and believe whatever the TV says is going on? The sun and the moon, same story. Those don't look anything like they used to look, and they're changing in ways that the Bible predicts and says is involved with end times. Okay, so that goes with the theme of this video, which is not just a bunch of different random stuff. I didn't even plan on talking about that, but let's get into the video. I'll try to go through the slides fast. I have an epic Bible reading at the end. I have some good pictures at the end in true YouTube fashion, so stick around. Let's get through these. I picked this picture because I thought it was funny. It's like the flip of it's the rare case where they actually are like making these things better. But in the fake history mud flood community, we have a million examples of the opposite of that, where the buildings used to be highly ornamented and today it looks like garbage. This was just a flip of that, so I thought it was funny. Wrong direction. Let's go this way. Oh man, this one's doing something funky with the fingers down here. What is that? And oh so serious bone structure. What do you just think about the energy that these people put off? Like who puts off a feminine energy and who puts off a masculine energy? The ears, those low angled back ears, and the jaw. Oh, I had another image of this, but I don't know where it went. Somebody on Reddit was like, I just found a well underneath my house. And I'm pretty sure it was in America. This happens all the time, where people are clearing out their basements or they're doing some renovations and they're like, there's a well on my house. And look at the craftsmanship of that well. Man. And this goes with mud flood. I don't know. I think that people have gone away from that name for the most part, right? But, fake history. And I just think of historical resets, the fact that societies come and go and people move in and they just take ownership of it and they make a fake backstory for it. And I mean, a lot of times the true history is probably totally lost. Like, we may have no idea who actually built this. So what becomes history is just the most recent lie that somebody said. The most recent time somebody said, oh yeah, I built that, and just took credit for something that they didn't do. But this is very common. And yeah, in places all over America too. I have some other slides, hopefully, that talk about that subject. People finding, like, digging down in areas where there shouldn't be stuff, and they find stuff. Like, there's no local history of there being civilization there, but people will drill down and, like, 30 feet underground, they'll find some, like, telephone pole. I just remember reading a comment about that with, like, bakelite, so, like, plastic. And that, I bet there could be historical plastics out there, and I mean, most of them deteriorate because in UV it deteriorates so fast. Anyways, next subject. The reason I picked this, on my phone I had a bunch of Nixon quotes because they were hilarious. Nixon actually had some hilarious woke quotes going on, and I picked this because what's hot in the news right now is J.K. Rowling and alleged Holocaust denial, and I find that very interesting. You know how J.K. has just been a surprise. Honestly, I think that what J.K.'s been doing post Harry Potter is more interesting than Harry Potter itself. The anti-trans stuff, even though they're clearly trans themselves, and I of course think that people like J.K. Rowling, or I don't even know how to pronounce it, to be honest with you. I think that they're just like the front man for a group project. And anyway, so I think that's interesting that I had these images of Nixon and a lot of them were very anti-Semitic, and also that the J.K. Rowling thing and the Holocaust denial is big in the news. Thought this was hilarious. They are so gay. They are. Freemasonry. It's kind of hilarious, like on 4chan. Not that I go there a lot or anything, but it's like it's nice that it's a well-known thing about Freemasonry, that it's like it's hard to get more gay than that Freemasonry type stuff. Secret societies, it's so stupid, so childish, and yes, homo, the stuff that these people do. In one of my videos about fake history, somebody was talking about Norumbega. So probably a real place. Like I don't think that, and I think, was this East Coast area? Clearly a huge empire existed on the East Coast in the same capacity to Europe. It's the same sort of thing. The designed cities that look like circuit boards, and yeah, of course, peasants in the 1800s are not building these things. Old lost empires is a cool thing, but I included these maps because I imagine a lot of the putting fantastical creatures in the old maps. I think, don't they tell us that it's because they would tell people that that was real and they wanted to make people scared of the ocean or something? I imagine that a lot of that is to discredit old maps, to be like, they clearly didn't know about these places. They were making maps with like fake places like to Atlantis or whatever, and look at the sea monsters that they drew on their maps. They weren't real. Anyways, that's just a thought I had, that maybe all those fantastical sea monsters on the maps were added later to try to discredit some old maps. This is what happens to aluminum when a half-ounce piece of plastic hits it at 15,000 miles per hour in space. The whole thing about outer space being totally cluttered with satellites is obviously fake, and the ISS couldn't like be up there with all the trash that they tell us about. They, of course, love showing cartoons of like a dust cloud of so much space debris, and it just all makes so much more sense when you realize that it's a bunch of BS and it's not even remotely believable, and they don't even try. They really don't even try to make their stuff that believable, so they go over the top with it. Yeah, do you really think that they could have the ISS chilling up there with all the satellites, and satellites aren't just like going down all the time? And I mean, I guess their excuse will just be like, oh, but space is really big. But if a tiny piece of plastic does this, there's got to be, I mean... Anyways, here was more space stuff. It's always nice to see someone succeed. Congratulations. Look at what color tie they decided to wear. Official NASA headshot just dropped. Oh my goodness. Are you a scientist, a doctor, or both? Here's Tyrone from NASA. Triple E component engineer. So I work on the space and satellite hardware that's used in the various vehicles, VV, and rocket ships astronauts use to fly into orbit for the military, government, etc. No, you don't. Be quiet. What's the difference between an Aussie and milk? Leave milk in the sun and it forms a culture. I thought that was kind of funny, but the Aussie culture is hilarious, and how they have all the alleged same old world buildings there. The Aussie thing, nobody should believe their history. They allegedly got shipped there because they were like slave or prisoners, and the first thing that happens is that the prisoners decide to build all the same fancy stuff that gets built everywhere. And no, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, just like none of their stories ever make sense. But the Aussie one, and New Zealand, I have a video, go check out my video on New Zealand. They tell you that like one guy built like everything on New Zealand, all the fancy old world looking stuff. Some guy just built it all. One guy. A topic, I had more images of this, so maybe time for a future video or something, but old instrumentation I think is really interesting, and how there used to be so much variation in instrumentation, and how today they try to make people think that today everything is the best, but there really is a lack of creativity and a lack of diversity. Like I've talked before about, if you learn to play flute, no matter where you are on earth, you learn the same instrument, and that instrument is actually a lot of what made that instrument become what it is it's not because it's like high tech and fancy. It made everything easier and more chromatic and level across everything. And that's not necessarily better, it's just a different way of doing things. But then the fact is that everybody does it this way, and then everybody goes to the new 440 hertz or whatever. That's another thing that a lot of people get into, is the hertz and how they tune today. And is that a conspiracy? Are they blasting us with harmful hertz frequencies instead of better, more healing ones? Maybe that was a reason why back in the day different countries used different tuning systems, and there wasn't agreement on what A should be, the note A, back in the day. And maybe it's because different frequencies offered different healing properties, and some people thought, oh, this is a better one, and other people thought another was a better one. But I wonder where 440 fits into this. You saw for a while on YouTube, it was really big. Like, is it 432 hertz people are really into? I don't know, but I am interested in music and frequencies. God literally made this place with his word, and something that's been coming up in my life is the way. The early Christians, they were called the way, and then it reminds me of Dune, the weirding way. That's, of course, all of this popular media, they steal things from the Bible. They don't really have original ideas. The Bible is full of so much inspiration, so people just take it. And so the weirding way, isn't that all about like using a sound technology? I don't know, I'm going to be honest, I've only seen the David Lynch Dune movie. I've never read the books. So, but look at this cool metal ocarina from 1875. Looks futuristic. Sorry. Just a jump scare. This one's more of a jump scare almost. Representative Nancy Mace. Dude looks like a lady. What is up with the weirdos talking about bunkers and having huge collections of pink guns and stuff? There's something wacky going on. I would imagine. So what I think this is that people in high places, they like to whisper about how they have inside information about how shit is going to hit the fan next year or whatever. I mean, this as all levels of society. Just somebody I know from church talking about, oh, my bud who works for the FBI is whispering to me like, get ready, you know. Those people are always saying that kind of stuff. But anyways, I imagine that's part of why these types of people are building compounds and arming up. I'm sure that there's all sorts of whisperings about how stuff is going to go down in the near future. Just some transvestigation related photos. But I mean, this is the way that people look today. But the shoulder structure, who has straight across shoulders, who has sloped shoulders, whose arms naturally angle away from the body with short humerus bones. But you see how she is taught on the left to walk with the knees together, but that is an enormous kneecap. But they get trained, and very lean legs in general. But, right, the person on the right, that could be anybody. That could be any person walking down the street. It's just because men today have a female bone structure 99 times out of 100, maybe 999 times out of 100. Not enough data to even really know, but that's typical. I have a picture at the end that kind of shows how they screw with people's minds by, think of any buff person, like just a cartoon character of somebody buff. They give them the tiny little arms that angle away from the body, and they're very chesty. Like, why do that's always kind of disturbed me, their chests. It's like they straight up have boobs. Women are supposed to be chesty, not men. This is the image. This image is just mind-boggling. But if you know about transvestigation, if you know about free martins versus non-free martins, this is total propaganda to make people think that a natural male skeleton is the epitome of puniness, and the hulked out free martin body who abuses tea likely is the one that is the pinnacle of masculinity. What is masculine about having teeny tiny little humerus bones? It's just hilarious. Once you realize that it's just a caricature of strength. Like those arms should look comically small. The arms look so comically small. And then notice that you start to get more actual male skeleton with the exposed large flat collarbones and the arms that angle straight down. But they're saying that is the pinnacle of puny, weak beta male. So I just thought this was a strange and unusual image of somebody who clearly knew the secret. And they do this all the time, where they make a more actually masculine frame seem weak and puny, and they puff up this Free Martin frame as being the pinnacle of strength and masculinity. It's the same thing with the fake femininity thing. They don't push a real natural woman's body as feminine. It has to either be the bimbo look or stick skinny. And yep. So this is a cool image that I saved until later. This was from the 1920s. So I believe, you could go double check my math or something, it's supposed to be like 40 years old or something right now, the statue. But it's looking pretty haggard there. Not looking very fresh. And something interesting about the history, I didn't take a picture because it was just in the Wikipedia. Go read the Wikipedia on the Statue of Liberty and how they initially tried to light up the torch, but it was so dim. People were making fun of it, calling it like the glowworm or something. I don't remember exactly. But I think that shows that they were trying to get this technology back online, but it was a dud at first. They couldn't quite get it working the way that it was supposed to. Why would they put all this effort into building this? And the unbelievable images that they show us is that they already assembled it in Paris. So why would they do that? But then the light mechanism, which should be like the showstopper, you're going to make sure that works. If you're going to go through all the effort of building this colossal thing and it has a light in it, you're going to make sure that the light part actually works. So I think that the history of this, and when they first try to get that torch lit up again and it's super, super dim, and they're like, well, that sucks. We got to get it better than that. I think that really points to a historical reset era where they're trying to kickstart this technology again, get these things up and running again. And I think a lot of times they would try to get stuff running and just decide that it's not working, and then they just knock it down. But something like this is so spectacular. But equally spectacular things have just been knocked down and lost to time as well, surely. Look how ancient this stuff already looks, though. This was a photo in the 1920s, and the weird stars all around. It reminds me of the Hollywood stars. Built, of course, on a star fort. And the island even looks potentially artificial. And what's going on with that middle window there? It almost looks like the windows on the pedestal are like boarded up, but then half open at that one part. Cool image. So that is it for the images. Now I'm going to read a really cool chapter of the Bible. This is Job, chapter 38. And somebody was just talking to me about how Ecclesiastes and Job are very philosophical books of the Bible. Yeah, like I have no idea why Job does not get read in philosophy classes. Well, the idea is there's a direct attack on Christianity, and they don't... Okay, so it's this weird duality thing. Presidents of America put their hand on a Bible. They say, God bless America. They wear a little pin or whatever, a cross necklace, and they say that they're Christian. And they pretend in that way that America is quote-unquote Christian. But then all of the institutions are built in ways where secularism is shoved down everybody's throat, and you can't talk about Christianity. But other stuff is allowed. Other religions are allowed, but you can't be openly Christian. You can't openly teach Christian things. But there would be nothing wrong with a philosophy class taking something from the Quran. They would love that. They love that crap. But if a teacher was like, I'm going to teach Job in my philosophy class, there would be complaints, and you would possibly lose your job for doing stuff like that. So there's an obvious, even though America pretends to be Christian, those are wolves in sheep's clothing. The ones at the top that pretend to be Christian, they're really satanic. Okay, Job it reads exactly like the Plato dialogues. So, in my opinion, I think that all the Plato, ancient Greek stuff could have been happening at the same time as Job. Because I think that it was just a style of the time to write something as a dialogue. And if you read Job, it's written exactly as a dialogue, how the Plato things are written as a dialogue. Somebody comes up with an idea, and I mean, Plato, it's supposed to be a philosophy, but they write it as two groups of people talking to one another, or one person talking to another person. So I think that Job is written like that on purpose, because it was like a stylistic thing of the time. The conversations that happen in Job probably did happen, but I think that it also seems like a stylistic thing to me. Anyways, let's get into it. Job chapter 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. And notice that modern day science they try to answer all these questions, but notice that it's foolishness, that they're completely making this stuff up. But science exactly tries to answer these types of questions that God is asking here. And people today, they have no humility, and they think that they know the answer to everything, just because a TV told them, or a book that they read in school told them, or their teacher one time. Anyways, I'm just going to keep reading. That's the general thing to take away from this. I'm going to say that verse again. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors, when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the dayspring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, or hast thou walked in the search of the depth? Have the gates of death been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare, if thou knowest it all. Where is the way where light dwelleth? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? That thou shouldest take into the bond thereof, and that thou shouldest know the paths to the house thereof. Knowest thou it because thou wast then born, or because the number of thy days is great? Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? By what way is the light parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth? Who hath divided a watercourse for the overflowing of waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder? To cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man. To satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth. Hath the rain a father? Or who hath begotten the drops of dew? Out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frosts of heaven? Who hath gathered it? The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover thee? Canst thou send lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are? Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? Or who hath given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds in wisdom? Or who can stay the bottles of heaven? when the dust groweth into hardness, and the clods cleave fast together? Wilt thou hunt the prey for the lion, or fill the appetite of the young lions, when they crouch in their dens and abide in the covert to lie in wait? Who provideth for the raven his food, when his young ones cry unto God, they wander for lack of meat? And that's the last verse of this one, so it seems like God keeps going, but I just love this, and it's so poetic and powerful and great questions. And like I said, these are oftentimes the types of questions that science tries to answer and act like they're the most smarty pants about it, and they can tell you how many meters away the sun is, or how many cajillion years ago some rock came forth. And so it just takes a little humility to admit that you don't know. And oftentimes that's the best answer, that you don't know. I like to say, we'll figure it out later. In heaven, we'll have time to have all of our questions answered. So it's not worth it to just pretend you know when you really don't know. Hope you enjoyed the video. God bless everyone.